Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FIDE Chess Grand Swiss. This is a tournament being held at the Isle of Man, and as I've said already 5 times in these videos, the top 2 finishers make it to the Candidates Tournament. And the Candidates Tournament determines who plays for the World Chess Championship in the year 2014. Actually, that's what I said yesterday. It's supposed to be 2024. I don't know why I said 14. I probably shouldn't record videos very late at night. Before we jump into these incredible games today from Hikaru, Fabiano, Hans Niemann, and others, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Netflix, and the Queen's Gambit chess game. Hey, you've heard of Netflix, right? And you've heard of the Queen's Gambit, right? Well, say hello to the Queen's Gambit chess game. This game is a digital adaptation of the popular series, which lets you fully immerse yourself in Beth Harmon's life and see all of the show's themes and aesthetics and try different gameplay modes. This game can be enjoyed by everybody, even total beginners in chess, but there's actually opportunities for all levels to have a great time. Check this out, you actually start by learning from Mr. Scheibel in the basement of the Methuen home, exactly like in the show. You earn rewards as you learn more, and then you'll unlock all of the important landmarks in Beth Harmon's life as she goes up the ranks. There's even a tool called Beth's Vision, which mirrors what happens in the show. Beth stares at the ceiling, all the possibilities swirling in the air, and then she figures out the best move. This helps you learn by avoiding mistakes and also spotting winning opportunities. And you even can play a real Beth Harmon bot 1 vs 1, and she's quite good. She gave me a really tough game. My friends, you can play the Queen's Gambit for free with your Netflix subscription in the Netflix mobile app under Netflix Games. Netflix Games is included with any Netflix subscription, and it's currently a catalog with 60 playable games, but many more are coming soon. Now let's get back to the video. Thanks, sponsored Gotham. My friends, let's begin with the battle for first place. Andrei Esipenko with the white pieces, Hikaru Nakamura with the black pieces. Andrei plays e4. Hikaru famously defeated Andrei Esipenko several years ago at the Grand Prix, a tournament that actually no longer exists, but that was one of the early ways that we determined how somebody would make it to the Candidates Tournament. Well, Esipenko plays e4. And Hikaru historically has responded to this move with the move e5. And Hikaru has historically responded to this with the Berlin defense. But in this tournament, Hikaru has shown up to fight. And he plays the Sicilian. Board 1 with black. We're playing on Hikaru's terms. Knight f3, and this man, Hikaru, plays g6. Not the main line with knight c6, not the main line with d6 or e6. Hikaru plays for an accelerated dragon, not just any. He plays for a hyper-accelerated dragon with the move pawn to g6. Of course, the hyper-accelerated dragon puts a bishop on g7 and a knight on c6 and keeps this move open. One of the most common ways to play against it is to play the Maroczy structure. And against bishop g7, white plays bishop e3, knight c3, and then puts pawns on light squares like this. But Esipenko actually thinks for a little while and plays c3. So he deliberately tries to set up a big center like this, and now we're in an Alpin. It's as if we played e4, c5, c3, and we get a very locked structure very early. Look at Esipenko down 20 minutes on the clock, just trying to keep Hikaru away from him. Plays bishop e2, and Hikaru firing at the center with f6. This is not normally what we get in top-level chess on board 1 late into a tournament. This is a really provocative game. Really provocative opening. Esipenko takes both sides castle, and my friends, Hikaru has an open f-file. He's going to utilize that. Bishop e3 played by Andrei. Hikaru thinks for 20 minutes and takes on d4. The computer already wanted black to play knight h5, completely lose the pawn here, and then seize the entirety of the center like this. But this is very risky, because if you don't know that this is fine, you are kind of just down a pawn. Knight bd2 looks nice. Black will play e4, knight f4, and go for counterplay. Hikaru does the same exact thing, minus the losing of the pawn. So this capture allows knight c3, and Hikaru plays knight h5, knight f4. He wants the bishop, so Andrei plays a really nice idea here. Rook e1 and bishop f1, rerouting the bishop, ready with queen d2, knight c3, and g3 in the future if he wants it. Hikaru's next move can only possibly be described as a mega giga chad move. And that move is g5. Also, if for the duration of this recap, I speak a bit more calmly than normal, please don't be scared. I think I got sick. Yesterday, I was caught in like freezing rain for like 20 minutes. Not fun. Also, everybody's been sick. It's like, you know, early winter. So I might have COVID. We'll see. Hopefully not. But I've been getting worse and worse the entire day. Knight e5. By the way, some points must be given for the move g5. I mean, just attacking on the same side. If white doesn't respect it, g4, and then black gets this big attack brewing on white's king. Just awesome stuff from Hikaru, playing very provocatively. Esipenko putting the knight in the center, giving up the pawn. Esipenko straight up just loses a pawn. But he has what we call compensation. He is compensating for the pawn loss with activity against Hikaru's pieces. Very powerful bishop that stares and eyeballs at the weaknesses around Hikaru's king. Knight a4 played by Esipenko, and look at these cannons pointed this way. What a beautiful position by white. And now, unfortunately, I have some bad news. In chess, when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, white is down a pawn, but to compensate, white has ridiculously active pieces, a lot of threads brewing. Sometimes the game, unfortunately, peters out. In this position, if white plays bishop d3 and tries to play queen h5, black will consolidate and actually attack white first. So, sadly, Esipenko is forced to sacrifice the bishop, and the game ends in a draw because his alternative was to just play on down a pawn. Honestly, not a very, fun game in the sense that it was over before it started, but Hikaru's playing for a win with both colors every game. I mean, you have got to love what Hikaru is bringing every single round. And Esipenko did as well. He played provocatively. He played knight e5 and had to, fight back, being a pawn down, but with some active pieces. It's everything you want, my friends. Look, sometimes that's what happens. We keep moving. We have some really fun games. Yu Yang versus Arjun Erigaisi. This one's actually going to be over very quickly, the recap of this one. Arjun with the black pieces tied for first place. Yu Yang is a half a point behind, but they all need an opponent. These guys bust out a bunch of opening theory. Yu Yang takes on the queen side, and then watch. I don't think you have ever seen a position ever like this before. On move 15 of this game, Arjun Erigaisi plays pawn to c5, targeting white center. White can take or take or take or take or take. And black, meanwhile, can take or take or take or take or take. And take and also take, and if take, then take. So what do the sides do? Well, of course, white takes and then 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 takes. What? Can somebody find the record for how many captures in a row have happened in a chess game? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Have 16 captures ever occurred in a chess game ever? In a row! See, I didn't say in a row, right? In a row. What? Anyway, I think you kind of get it. Yeah, look, sometimes, my friends, what happens. I mean, sometimes the dudes just want to go to the dinner buffet before, and get the first plate. That's just how it works. Dude said, I'm out. Listen, our Erigaisi can make these draws. He's in first place. Now, couple of games that weren't draws. Vidit Gujarati, Hans Niemann, and Fabiano Caruana versus Yevgeny Najer. All right, here we go. Vidit with the white pieces. Hans coming off of a very, very close game against Ali Reza where he had winning chances. Then a nice win against Report, where he played at 98% accuracy, but I embellished it to 100% accuracy for clickbait purposes. E4, E5, not for the other stuff. I'm going to be talking about this in every recap at this point. I'm waiting for Hikaru to win a game with 100% accuracy. You best believe I am making a video called Hikaru Nakamura wins with 100% accuracy. Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop B5, A6. And we get, by the way, important. Against Fabiano, Hans went here. And Hans has played the Berlin in this tournament before. Against Fabiano, he's played Berlin also previously. Plays into a regular Spanish. He plays into a Spanish without moving his d-pawn. Okay? Plays into a Spanish. He doesn't actually play d6, which is the mainline move order. He plays the move order where he is leaving the option to play d5. And Vidit plays one of multiple anti-marshals like a4 or h3, plays a4. This is called an anti-martial because black is going to be forced to play the move pawn to d6. And that is what happens. All right, queen d7. All of this has happened before. Hans plays knight d8. And generally what's going to happen when these pawns are here is that there's going to be action on the queen side, right? So Vidit takes. Notice how Vidit's not thinking. Hans is thinking a little bit. Vidit's still not thinking. Vidit is still not thinking. Knight d8. Vidit's still not thinking. He takes the knight because the queen is defending both pawns, and that would force black to take with the pawn. Vidit plays b4. All of this is prep. This kind of like freezes the pawn on the b5 square. The bishop is sort of stuck. Black might need to play d5 to activate the bishop. He can't really play d5 to activate the bishop because the pawn here is hanging, so he's going to try to route the bishop backwards. Vidit has now played 17 moves without even thinking because modern chess is dead. Queen to b2, and he has still not spent any time. Now he trades the rooks. He has still spent, I think he spent 2 minutes there because he went to get some water. Rook a1, queen a1. Now, please, Vidit, think on your own, and he does for 20 minutes. Okay, terrific. Yeah, so Vidit gets out of the opening on the 21st move because modern chess is a cesspool. Very difficult to play chess when, you know, your opponent has memorized 20 moves. Credit to Hans to getting, you know, to this position. And now white is going to try to bully you over here. The computer gives g4, and then the computer gives g5, and then the computer says king g2, king g8, because Stockfish is essentially out of ideas and just wants to go to the dinner buffet with Erigaisi and Yu Yang. Queen a7 and queen a5. And at this point, Hans basically starts, like, shuffling the pieces around. He's like, I'm rock solid. Good luck. Bishop a7. Bishop d8, Vidit goes queen a6, Hans repeats moves, Vidit goes bishop b8, Hans repeats moves, Vidit goes knight b1, and to be honest with you, the computer just says shuffle back and forth. But suddenly this configuration of pieces gives Stockfish hope, and Stockfish is like, wait a minute, what about this knight rerouting? It's a very close position, the knight can reroute, and then there's possibilities. So Hans starts playing a little bit more energetically, and bishop d8, and then plays queen e8, which clearly seems to be some sort of unraveling idea. Now, meanwhile, Vidit, anticipating an attack here, does something really clever. Vidit sneaks the king away. What the... Dude is just playing king f1. He's going to run his king to b1, or what? I mean, what is going on here? King 8. Vidit, what are these guys doing? Dudes are straight up playing like some sort of challenge chess. Like, you know, they're playing as if a viewer said, make 3 king moves in a row and I'll give you $1,000. Like, what? Why are they just moving? I can't explain this stuff to you. You know what I mean? Queen d7. Now Vidit goes king. What is going on? Knight g8. Vidit finally does this plan. This has been the plan for a while. I don't know why he needed to do a little Macarena dance with his king. And now he goes back to e2 to safeguard the knight. And now Hans plays d5. At this point, I thought, oh my god, Hans is taking over the game. Vidit's got no time. Look at this. Look at Hans taking over. Queen h5 check, which apparently is a mistake. Apparently, black is not the one calling the shots yet. Black needs to just stay back and relax. But Hans goes for it and then does this. And that allows Vidit to just get a little bit closer. And here Hans makes a huge mistake. 26 minutes versus 4. This was Hans's biggest moment of the game. I think Hans is a fighter. He wants to like keep as much tension in the position as possible. So instead of taking and maybe trading a bunch of pieces, he decides to go here, probably anticipating knight e4 or queen e4 check. But just this move, and suddenly black can't move any pieces. And he hunts Vidit's king, but Vidit is completely safe. Vidit broke through, and Hans can't move anything. He just cannot make a move. One bad pawn trade, Vidit gets in there. We go to an endgame, but it's not even an endgame. It's a massive assault on the black position. It's still holdable apparently if you play here and then knight f3, but Hans goes like this, and this is just wrong. And knight d2, bishop f6 is game over. That's mate. That's a hanging bishop, and white is completely safe. And Hans resigns. Vidit wins a big game versus Hans Niemann. I mean, what more can you ask from him? Like I said, instead of the immediate knight f3 check, the computer was giving bishop d7 first and then knight f3. So f4, knight f3. The difference was in the game king c3 happened, queen h1. You gotta lose the bishop. And then actually black is winning because, because of this. So queen d7 can't be played. White would have had to play something else like knight b3, and then queen e1 check. I mean, you can follow this absurd engine line all the way down here, and then the bishop is defended. So I'm just glad I'm not playing the games myself. Now, Fabiano Caruana made a couple of draws, cooled off a little bit, playing white against Yevgeny Najer from Russia. It's in Italian. How fitting. Fabi going back to his roots. Bishop, look at black playing in Italian by bringing out the bishop and then bringing the bishop back. He's doing that because he wants to deal with the pin. Bishop g3, right? Knight bd2. And this setup is very odd, but I'm imagining that the bishop is going to come here, or the king is going to come up. The knight is going to go to h5, and the pawn will go to f5. So h3, Najer strikes on the queen side, and we get a very imbalanced game. Look at Fabi. Look at Fabi's prep. Fabi barely spending any time in the opening. Najer also on his own now. He's been on his own. There's knight h5. I told you that was happening. And then Najer plays bishop g5. That's a wild move. Wow. Trying to play bishop f4 and then get in with his knight. And you know white doesn't want to take. Not just queen g5 being scary, this might be scary too. Because the knight's going right there. The knight is going to go to f4, and that is very unpleasant. If bishop takes, you got e takes, you got g takes. They both look pretty good. So Najer playing a very, very aggressive Italian, getting in there into Fabiano's position with the knights. That knight is going to come to f4 at some point. Fabi needs to figure something out. The one good thing that Fabiano has in this position is the a file, and he makes use of it. And in trading off the rook to try to get Fabi's pressure off the a file, Fabi turns his focus to the other side of the board. It's still very equal, but here comes the breakthrough. Big moment in the game. Najer takes, allows the knight in, and hits it from the side. Rook to e4. Knight f6, and now knight takes bishop. I don't think Najer missed this tactic. I think he went for this deliberately. But yeah, the idea of rook e4 was just to win this. And if you took here, b4, removing the defender, a deflection and a removing the defender tactic. Knight to f6, hit the rook, but didn't take away the threat on the bishop. And I mean, if Najer had played bishop e6, game would have went on. But my friends, 8 times out of 10, 2 pieces are better than the rook. He didn't take because he would lose the rook. And yeah, I mean, Fabi just has a bishop and a knight. And maybe Najer thought this position was okay, but let me tell you, it is definitely not okay. Look at Fabi bringing his pieces back. It's just too many pieces. Bishop d3, and in this position, Najer just resigned. He literally just resigned. He resigned because he's going to lose d4, and then he's going to lose everything else. He could go here, and then he could play here. It's not good enough. White defends everything. Every pawn in White's position is defended. Look. You can't touch White's pawns. You know whose pawns you can't touch? Black's pawns. And that's what Fabiano's going to do, one after the other. And Fabi also gets in line at the dinner buffet. Big win for Fabi. He now rejoins the leaders. It is a massive tie for first. Let's keep it rolling. This is the game for first place again on the women's side. Yesterday, Bibisara Asubayeva defeated Tan Zhongyi. Today, she is playing Anna Muzichuk. We've seen multiple people involved in these recaps, including the Muzichuk sisters, by the way, who exclusively play the Alpin Sicilian, which kind of drives me insane because it's too solid of an opening for my liking. And we've seen it used by like multiple players now to subdue Hikaru. But Black plays a line that Hikaru played already earlier in this tournament. Knight takes d4 and bishop g4, giving away the bishop for the knight and getting a very comfortable setup. Okay, in fact, getting the bishop off the board. Just an equal position. But what does White have here? Pressure. Just a little bit of queenside pressure. Same side castling. Bishops come off the board. Same side pressure. b4. Restricting the black knight. Putting the knight into the center of the board. We go to a queen and knight endgame. All White has here is a little bit of activity. That's all she has. And a little bit of a majority. She has 3 on 2. Doubled B pawns, but she could play things like B5. Okay, G4. Black plays Queen E7. Black's been passive the whole game. A little bit too passive. Queen D4. You gotta be passive and massive. You can't just be passive. King G8. White just creeps forward. You can't take this pawn. It looks like you can, but there's check, King G7, and then there's here. Guarding this, hitting that, and that's bad. Because after Queen F8, Black is going to lose this pawn and then probably lose the game. So Muzachuk is just pressuring. Slow. Look at this nice idea to trade the queens into some form of a 3-on-2 endgame. She's claiming she's going to play for a win there. Bibisara just playing a little bit slow, a little bit too passively. Now it's a 2-on-1. It's a 2-on-1 majority. All right? Knight d6. Bibisara is still trying to fight back, and she does. Oh my goodness, what a mistake. An amazing move, b6, to win the pawn. And that's it. But now queen b6. Okay, but we are like in very close to drawing territory now. All white has is a b pawn. Is white actually going to be able to run away with it? Oh my goodness. Queen h3, queen d4 check. She deflects the pawn. She's down to 2. How's she going to do this? This is not winnable. Oh my god. Bibisara has to give checks. Check. Check. Does she have a draw? Does she have a draw? The king is now running to the d file. Is it a draw? Queen b6. Apparently, black had to be active or play e5. By going backwards, you allow white to creep forward. Black now strikes back. But the queen trade, the threat of a queen trade is everything here. Queen a5 and now queen f6 check. Oh my goodness, she is losing the pawns. She is losing the pawns, and once she loses the pawns, the b pawn is going to go. And the king walks up the board, gets shielded from the checks, and f4 seals the deal. You're going to win this pawn, and if queen f4, it's takes, and white wins the race. Anna Muzachuk defeats the leader and now leads the women's Grand Swiss with 5 points out of 6. Crazy stuff going on over there. Crazy stuff going on over here as well. Sam Sevian, Javakir Sindarov. A game for first place. An offbeat King's Indian move order. Doesn't really matter. Center opens up. Knight f6. Bishop e3. Look at Sindarov. What the heck is Sindarov doing? What is this? But Sindarov plays d5. Looking to rip open white's center. Take. Long castle. Knight c6. We have a trade. And the bishop takes the center. But Sam Sevian should not have taken the knight. That did 2 things. Number 1, it opened up black's b file, and number 2, it strengthened black's center. Bishop d4, now we see the justification of the b file, and Sevian here takes. And instead of just playing a dead symmetrical, like, you know, everything is kind of locked up, and no. In this position, Sindarov activates some sort of jutsu, and instead of taking back on d5, he sacrifices the pawn. It looks like a mouse slip. I mean, it literally looks like instead of taking, you mouse slip the pawn. The longer you let Stockfish think, the more it sits there and goes, oh, c5. Deflects the bishop off of the diagonal. Here comes the queen. Here comes the bishop, sacrificing the rook completely. You can't even take it because you cannot feasibly stop my attack. Stockfish can, but Stockfish is not a player at the Grand Swiss. And Sevian says, get out of my territory. But after takes, knight takes d5. And my friends, it takes just 23 moves. Javakir Sindarov absolutely destroys Sam Sevian. And I like Sam Sevian. I can't believe that just happened. That came out of nowhere. 40 minutes up on the clock, white resigned. He resigned because rook d1, queen b2 is literally checkmate. And if you do this, black is just going to give you a check and win your rook. Sevian basically tried to subdue the black position. He basically got to a spot he went, I kind of don't like how active black is getting. So let's trade some pieces and be solid. And Javakir said, nope. Bishop f5. This, a couple of moves in a row like this, and white must be like, uh-oh, right? And look at 18 minutes spent. Bishop f5? Oh my. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Rook c8, knight, I mean, just, what a game. What a game. If this, black would have went rook takes c3. Oh my. And queen c3, queen b2 mate? Javakir Sindarov beats Sam Sevian in 23 moves and is tied for first place. And that is not the end. Alexander Predke from Russia, Sam Sevian from the United States, and don't go anywhere. If you want to click off this video, I have a massive update about Ramazan Jalmakhanov. We are ending every single one of these damn recaps with a mention of the 20-year-old photoless international master from Kazakhstan, maybe the greatest player of all time at this point. All right, I stan Ramazan. It has been 6 rounds, and you better not miss the last recap that I have for you of him. This game, Predke versus Shankland, very, very cutting-edge theory here. Gambit line where white is down a pawn, but black is behind in development. No, look at this. Look at Predke. Predke won a beautiful attacking game earlier in the event against... Oh! Against Duda. Look at this move, because if pawn takes, you got rook e6. But everything is fine. Shankland's got everything under control. But he loses the rook in the corner. So Predke loses a bishop on f4 for the rook in the corner, and now it's a matter of, will black win the knight as well? Because if black fails to win the knight, he's going to lose the game. Shankland plays bishop c8. He did that to safeguard his pawn. And here comes Predke's knight. Predke's knight is going to here and here, right? d3, e5, and f7. Takes. The king slides over to go after the knight. It's like one of those bank heist movies, you know? Like the casino ones, where it's a set amount of time. You know, the king is about to arrive and take, right? Queen e2, queen d6. And there's a golden rule of chess. If a person can make a move that looks completely impossible, either they're 500 like you, or it's over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Literally the most covered square in the black position. I suppose also d7. Boink. You cannot take with the c-pawn because of this. You cannot take with the queen because of this. You cannot take with the knight because of this. If takes, then mate. If queen takes, rook, skewer to d8. So you have to take with the e-pawn. But this is brutal. You can't take because of this. You can't take because of this. And if you take like this, queen e7, rook d1, rook d8. My friends, Alexander Predke absolutely slaughters the black position here. Knight g6 check. Knight back to f4. The queen bouncing around. Queen g5, queen c6. Predke wins both rooks. It's 2 rooks versus 2 knights and a bishop. But the black king is in dire straits. And now Predke comes back for the pawns. That a-pawn might decide all endgames now. Shankland doing a nice job trying to fight back with his knights. But his king's just a little too weak. We barely make it to move 40. But both sides have made their 40th move. And queen c4, queen b2. The queen is stuck. It's got to go here or here. And both of those moves end the game. Alexander Predke defeats Sam Shankland. He's tied for first. And Ramazan Jalmakhanov is a 20-year-old international master from Kazakhstan who has defeated a 2650 Alan Pichot, a 2680 Bassem Amin, Drew Alireza Firouzja 2777, Drew Alexei Sarana 2680, Drew 2698 rated. I'm blanking. Who did he draw? Oh my goodness. I'm blanking. And then yesterday, that's who we drew yesterday. And today he's playing 2760 rated Anish Giri. Perennial top 10 player, formerly number 2 in the world. And I'm just gonna scroll through some moves. Karo Khan. And solid opening. White maybe 0.2 better. Bishop versus knight. And Ramazan Jalmakhanov incurs absolutely zero risk, makes absolutely no mistakes, plays an absolutely solid game, completely neutralizes Anish Giri's efforts at being provocative in a Karo Khan. Look at him, methodically, like the Terminator, walk his opponent down, make absolutely no blunders. Good resistance because Anish Giri is rated 2760. And this game ends after 80 moves and some more shuffling. Unstoppable force, immovable object. Ramazan Jalmakhanov has not lost. This man just drew Anish Giri. He drew Alireza Firouzja. This man cannot be stopped. This is sublime. This is the greatest performance by a 2500 player maybe ever. I mean, like, this is otherworldly. Who was the other person that he drew? Sevian. Yes, he drew Sevian, and that was last round. Jeez, I remember nothing. My friends, these are your standings after 6 rounds. It is a 6-way tie for first, 7-way tie for first. Predke, Sindarov, Esipenko, Erigaisi, Hikaru, Fabiano, Vidit. All games that I have shown you. Ramazan Jalmakhanov is half a point out. Holy smokes. Najer, Yakub, Boyev, Bakro, Yuyangi, massive tie for 4 points. We got 3 epic rounds to go. I wish this was a 10-round tournament. It ain't. FIDE Grand Swiss continues. Round number 7. I will see you very, very soon. Get out of here. And you know what? If you made it this far in the video, shout out. The shout out is we have 100 more tickets for the November 4th event here in New York City. I'll be signing books. You could buy a ticket. You'll get a free ice cream at the Catch and Ice Cream Shop from Dylan LeMay, YouTuber. And you will get a signed copy of my book. 100 more tickets. If you're in New York City, out of state, you want to drive in. That's all. Bye. See you next time. Get out of here.